G'day guys, thanks for jumping on. Let me just set up our live stream. Give me a moment while we're just working out a couple of things. Hope we're well, legends. G'day guys, Rowan's on, Lachlan Selby, Dan Sinclair, few common names. Good to see you guys. Maybe in the chat bar you can let us know how your new skill has been going this week and let me know what you've been working on. Sounds like we've got a few magicians working on a couple of magic tricks, which is good. Rowan's going good with his juggling. A couple on the guitar. Very impressive stuff. Louis Webster's bowling fast. That's a good one. It's always a new one. Hopefully a couple of Fitzy's webinars will be able to help you on that if you've tuned into them. We've now got plenty on, which is good. We're almost on Facebook. And we are ready to go. Beautiful. Alrighty. I'm just going to share my screen with you guys. Welcome on. Thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. What I'm going to be taking you through is Analyse Pro. So we're going to be looking at Michael Hussey. For any that can think back and remember, maybe he wasn't around in the past number of years since you've been watching cricket, but he's a real legend of mine. And I want to share a bit of his story and a bit more of an analysis on him. And hopefully that's going to help you on your journey, okay, with your cricket. So make sure you've got your diary and pen ready. This won't go for too long. I'll make sure we can run through just a bit of analysis on Michael's career achievements and his technique and the way he went about it, okay? So I'm sorry I can't fully share my screen with you just because there's a bit of lag and some issues around that. But to kick us off, just before we get into it, I just want to talk about his character and his upbringing and everything that made Mr. Cricket special. So that was his nickname, and that's what he became known as for the many character traits he had as a professional, but as an up-and-coming cricketer as well, okay? So that's him pictured there with his brother Dave, who are now two legends of Australian cricket, two absolute idols of mine, as I said, and hopefully their story will help you to think about your own and for you to start developing your own story in particular. So these boys grew up in Perth. Michael was the older brother, Dave was the younger brother, and family life was really important to them. So their dad was a really big impact on their life. He was their main coach as young kids. He'd get them running the sand dunes, working hard over summer. It was a real big influence on their life, and he was from quite a big family, and that's what he always reverted back to at the end of the day. So while Michael is my biggest role model in life, it's always important to think that your family is there as well with everything you do. So Michael started playing grade cricket, junior cricket, all the way through in Perth, and made his first grade debut at age 15, which is quite young for anyone who is out there. You may be of a similar age. He was basically playing the top level of club cricket in Western Australia by the time he was 15, 16 and a young adult. So an interesting thing to note about how he was brought up, Michael was actually initially a right-handed batsman. He writes right-handed. He does everything else with his right hand. But his old man actually got him to swap around his technique and to start batting left-handed because he thought it may be an advantage over some bowlers. He thought that it may be a way for him to learn to bat and be able to stay there for longer periods of time because, as bowlers know, it is a lot harder bowling to a lefty simply because there are less of them out there. Okay, so that's a little bit about Michael's character and his upbringing and how he eventually got to the top line of cricket. Okay, and what we're going to do now is a bit of video analysis on Michael Hussey actually batting. He was a batsman in particular, a really good middle order batsman. And there's a few interesting things about his story that make it so special, making his Test debut at the age of 30. Okay, so what we'll do is I'll run us through our first video. And this is Michael talking us through essentially what was a career-saving innings for him. It was a match-defining innings in the Ashes, but a career-saving innings as well. And what stands out to me the most about Huss is that no matter what he came across in his career, he always overcame so many challenges, and this was just one of them. Okay, so we'll have a look now.
It was a really difficult time actually, because there was a lot of talk that I should be out of the team from a lot of commentators and experts, and a lot of the public, a lot of the other press as well. So I played a couple of Shield games and not made any runs whatsoever. I got a duck and one in Adelaide, and then I got a duck in the first innings in Melbourne. So, but I knew in myself I was actually batting quite well. I just found crazy ways to get out, and I got 100 in the second innings in Melbourne, and that really just helped me to relax and just affirm in my mind, okay, I'm batting well.
Under pressure to hold his place in the Test team, Michael Hussey made 118 for the Warriors.
But I'm still hopeful that the selectors are going to show faith in me and select me, because they hadn't been at this stage.
The National Selection Panel is going to announce a 17-man squad. Ryan Harris, Nathan Horrocks, Mark Hussey.
So thankfully, they showed that faith in me and they did select me. And as I said, I felt like I was batting well, but I hadn't really sort of get an opportunity on a consistent basis. But I remember going up to Brisbane, it was almost like a bit of a relief. Okay, at least I'm in the team, I know I'm batting well, prepared really well in the lead up to the Test. But it just goes to show you how cricket batting, I guess, can be such a fickle game, and it's such a fine line. And my very first ball of that Ashes series was off Stephen Finn. And I went for an on drive or a straight drive, nicked it, and it landed literally millimetres short of second slip.
What I'm going to do from now, guys, is just play it on a bit of slow-mo and turn the volume off, just so you can actually watch Huss batting and a few of the shots he does play, okay? And if it is a bit loud, you can also turn yours down. But I just want you to get a feel for the way Hussey's batting and the shots he plays. So as you can see there, he was dropped early on in this innings. Got his chance, got a lifeline, and really went with it, and went on to play his best ever Test innings, really. Probably speed that up a touch. And as we go through these couple of videos, note down what you see from Huss, how he plays the ball, what kind of shots he's playing, and what do you think his strengths would be as a batter? Absolutely, he's got some really good shots on the front foot, driving the ball. Commitment, that's a nice one, Bailey. Very committed player. Looks to use his feet and be really positive to spin. Good puller. Well done, Aditya. That's spot on. Really good puller of the ball, especially the short ball. Was quite aggressive on it. And there we go, to bring up his 100. So that's quite a nice video. What we'll do is we'll move on to the next video. And I think it sums up Hussey's career really well. Obviously, there are so many examples we could have used, but I wanted to pull up a video that highlights what he did really well. And often that was in one-day cricket. He was batting with the tail, and he was batting, finishing the innings, lifting the run rate in one-day cricket. Huss actually became really adaptable to that, and that became probably the best part about his cricket. So we'll go through and watch this innings he plays with his brother, and again, noting down his strengths, noting down what he does well, and we'll go through a bit of an analysis afterwards. So again, game in the balance, but Huss would usually come in, steady the ship, have lots of intent, be really positive, and actually swing the momentum back in Australia's favour. He seemed to dig Australia out of a lot of tough situations, which is, for anyone who does bat in the middle order, it can be really hard sometimes, especially when you're facing a good bowling attack. It can be difficult. Good cuts against the spinners. Uses his feet a lot. Really good point there, Callum. Again, pulling for fun, pulling off the front foot, pulling off the back foot. Good follow through, holds his shots. Can adapt to the changes. Great point, Isaac. We'll touch on that in a sec. Again, pulling a length ball. Dropped him. Alrighty. So we'll leave that one there. Some really good points coming through. Technically, he is really sound. That's why I did choose him. But it's also for the mental side of the game that he was. He had a lot of mettle. He had a lot of fight. He had a lot of courage to go through and did what he do. But technically, Mike Hussey, this is what I think he excels in. First and foremost is his back lift and the actual arc of his bat, the swing of his bat. So I'll show you what I mean. I'll actually get up and give you an example. If you were watching the clips, when Hussey's bat was set up, it was facing maybe in between keeper and first slip. So really straight, and that means every time he does play that straight ball, his bat comes through perfectly straight. If he does need to go horizontal, he can also have a clear swing at it, okay? So that's something to keep in mind, that it's going to differ for a lot of players. For example, you see a Pete Hanscom batting with his hands pretty stiff, wrists nice and high, wrist cocked and bat straight. That probably wouldn't work for Mike Hussey. He wanted his bat feeling the weight of it and making sure that he can have an arc and a swing that comes through straight, so he can play those shots through the covers and show that full face every single time, okay? So back lift, nice and even, and a nice arc of his shots coming through the ball. That's my first point. My second point, it was really simple in all the shots that he played, or his game plan. He's got 3 really particular shots. Can you guys think of which ones they were? A few of them mentioned before. Maybe put it in the chat bar. Pull shot, lovely. Pull shot coming through, exactly right. Cover drive. Cuts and pulls, nice one. Cuts and pulls again, and a flick off the pads, okay? What I noticed from watching Huss bat is he was really simple. If the ball's pitched up outside off, he's going to go and play his cover drive, play through the covers. That's what he was probably most well known for. And if he is on top of that, bowlers tend to change it up. Bowlers tend to look for another avenue to dismiss him. But he was really strong on that short ball, okay? So he had an option there off the front foot with the cover drive or off the back foot pulling, and he basically stuck to those two. Otherwise, he really looked to flick off the hips and off the body towards the leg side. So really simple. To think that one of the best players in the world, and when he did start out, he was averaging over 80 in Test cricket, which only one man has ever done before. He was on the top of his game, and he made sure that he was still only playing 3 shots, whatever he was doing. So it's a really good point there. Another one I've got down is clear plans with spin and pace as well. It made Huss a really versatile player. So what I mean by that is when you are watching those videos, you can tell the way he's trying to attack spin. He's either using his feet and getting down to the pitch of it, or he's right back in his crease and cutting the ball and making the most of that space that you can get off a spinner or that you can manipulate. So Huss was really clear on his plans, and you can hear him talk about it in that first video, that he just stuck to his process ball by ball, and that's what he looked to do. With the pace, as I mentioned, pitching up, he's really playing through covers. Otherwise, he's looking to pull the ball, which he did towards the end of his career a lot. He was really strong in that regard. And lastly, is running between the wickets. Fitness was always at the forefront of his game. It's what he prided himself on, and it's interesting to think that he spent all that time as a youngster running up the hills, doing the fitness work, being in really good shape. It definitely paid dividends for the rest of his career. He was a great runner between the wickets. And something to keep in mind as well, that Michael Hussey was actually a really slight man, if that makes sense to you. He wasn't very heavy. He didn't have a lot of muscle behind him. And certainly to start his career, and as he went through the age brackets, as he went through playing under 17s for WA, under 19s, and when he first started playing Shield cricket, he really didn't hit a lot of boundaries. He wasn't one of these explosive smashers like we see these days opening the batting. He was more of a pusher and a prodder, left the ball for a long period of time, waited his turn, and worked his way through his innings and built his innings. But more so, he would just nudge the ball around, look to hit the gaps. And it wasn't till he actually started playing international cricket where he mentioned that he started hitting sixes. So to think that he got to the age of 30 and only then started hitting sixes and started being a little bit more aggressive with the way he played cricket, it just shows how important that solid foundation was for him. Okay. So that's my tech analysis, and more of a statistical analysis and looking back on his career. What we'll do is open up his cricket info stats, not his my cricket. And I just want to highlight to you this bar below. There we go. So for anyone joining us out in WA, Huss was one of the favourite sons out there. He played a lot of Shield cricket. So much so, he's played 273 innings of first-class cricket with an average over 50 and 6100s. That's both in the UK and playing for WA. It's an absolutely phenomenal record, but that's years and years and years of hard work and toil, almost at the top level, not quite, and then he finally got his chance and definitely made the most of it once he did. But Huss was able to build such solid foundations through years of hard work at Shield cricket, and that ultimately paid off in the end, amounting to almost 80 test innings there, which is quite phenomenal, really, since he only started playing at the age of 30. Okay, so something to think about. There are also a number of other cricketers who are in a similar position to Huss. There are some great players out there that never really represented Australia, probably to the extent they could have, whether that's someone like a Chris Rogers, who came into the test team a lot later. He's the oldest debut player to ever make a debut for Australia. Brad Hodge is another one. Callum Ferguson is very similar out in South Australia. There are so many players who are in the same boat, and it can take a seriously long time to get to where you want to be. But I think Michael's story it's a great depiction that you should never let someone else's opinion of you or their view of you shape your reality. So what I mean is, just because you're not where you want to be at the moment doesn't mean you can't get to where you want to be. And I think Hussey's Shield record is a great example of that. He built that up over years and years, and it did pay off finally when he got his chance to play for Australia. And also, maybe more importantly than everything else, his team values and sportsmanship shine above everything. That's what Huss was really known for. The spirit he played the game in, the way he played the game, the way he led. He actually was the leader of the Australian team song at the end of each test match when they won. It's a really sacred position to be in, because the playing group feel that only the player who represents Australia and the general public and the team the best with the best values will be able to leave that. So it's just another indicator of how Huss was such a technically gifted player, but his character and his values and everything else off the field has also done a whole lot for him. Good point there in the chat box. Someone said Dan Christian also could have played a lot more for Australia. Maybe Bobby Quiney. There are so many that come to mind. Adam Voges is one, also from WA. But it's important to think, and I've got a point down there, don't worry about the opportunities you didn't get. Rather focus on taking the ones that actually come your way, or they finally come your way, and they eventually come your way, because they will, but you've got to be ready for that. And a lot of us can get in the trap in cricket of thinking, geez, I didn't make that rep side that I wanted to. Oh, look, I might throw in the towel, or I'm really upset with that. And it ends up playing on your mind a bit and taking away from what you're doing. Rather, you want to think about that opportunity when you actually get it and try and take it. That's what's most important at the end of the day. Okay. Other things we learned from Mr. Cricket, up top, he was meticulous in his preparation. So you saw he's a technically gifted player, but he also thought about the game a lot. Huss would actually bring a pair of scales everywhere he went around the world, no matter where it was or when it was. If he was on tour playing, he'd have this pair of scales, or set of scales rather, to be able to weigh his cricket bats on. So he was such a perfectionist. He wanted to make sure each of his bats was perfect so that he'd be able to use that in the middle. It'd make him feel comfortable. It'd make him feel at ease. And that's just one example of things that he did to make sure he was meticulous in his preparation. He also would, he'd have to get 8 hours sleep before he played. That was another thing he mentioned in a lot of his books. He's written a couple of books. Obviously, I'm a huge fanboy, so I've been through both of them, but he made sure that he'd just get a great night's sleep before every match, and he knew he needed that to be able to perform well. Held his values above all else when playing the game with exemplary sportsmanship. Again, it's probably something he's been able to bring into the rest of his life and life after cricket. Michael Hussey has coached in the IPL. He's helped coach with the Australian setup. He's had a career in the media. He's worked in sports development and on a number of boards. And I think it's important to keep that in mind. Yes, he finally did make it to the Australian cricket team and to the test team, and he got his baggy green, but that's carried on through the rest of his life. Those values, the way he played the game and the way he got on. So guys, if you have any questions at all, throw them in the chat bar now. But I thought that would be a really good way just to run through, yes, a technical analysis of the way he batted and those few points he did well. Otherwise, what he took out of the game and what made him who he was, and such a great role model for me personally. I hope that helps you think about your own role models in your own life, and so you can start to write your own story now. Got a few questions rolling through. Nate, did he bowl much? No, he wasn't much of a bowler. I think he does have a couple of test wickets, but that was more so just bowling as a change-up from one end. George Bailey could have played more. Great point to Sarah. George Bailey did play quite a bit for Australia, but I think the point was that he was quite a skilled and talented batsman. He was a leader, similar to Michael Hussey, and could have played a considerable amount more. The fact of the matter is that as professional cricket grows, there's going to be more cricket everywhere. There's still only going to be one Australian cricket team. So if anything, it will always be hard, maybe harder, to make that team as the nation grows, as more people play cricket. But there are still certainly so many opportunities. Michael Klinger also comes to mind. So there are a lot of players in the same boat. Krishana has mentioned, he's asked the question, how did he pull such fast bowlers? Really good question. I might just pull up some of those clips again that we can have a look through. Let's find a short ball. And I actually want you to listen to the commentary on this one, because it's an important point. There we go, almost there. Okay, I'll still play it on slow-mo just so you guys can see it a bit better.
Glorious pull shot.
three. Glorious full shot. Pull it wide a bit on, you're really on its own. I'm loving this. I'm loving the hustle.
So as you've heard there from Bill Laurie, you know, you're pulling the ball or playing the ball really well if you're pulling just wide and mid on. It means you're early on the ball and you're prepared. So I think what's most impressive about when Huss does play the pull shot or he does play the short ball is, number one, he's in position early, as we see in this clip. As the ball comes in, bowler bowls, I'll make it even slower. Turn that volume off. So the bowler's coming in and he's in position. And as he makes connection with that ball, if you notice where all the weight is, it's just on his back foot. He rocks back here. And as he makes that connection, his weight's back on the back foot. What that means is he can free his arms and have the mobility and the space to play the ball. So if he's late on it, his swing's probably going to look a bit more like this. It's going to be cramped up, might come up off the top edge, may hit him. But if you're early on a pull shot and you get in a great position, you can rock back, it's going to free your arms so that you can come through and play that ball. And some will play in the air, some will play down. Maybe you'll meet a few off the front foot. But it's one thing to keep in mind. If you are pulling, you want to get better against that short ball like Huss. Get back as fast as you can and think about that first point of your back lift and your swing and the arc of your swing and where it can come through. Because often timing and patience can get you through rather than just trying to hit out and go for that boundary. So really good point there, guys. Hugo's thrown in as well. Yeah, he played it early. Absolutely. Really clear on timing and the execution comes from that as a result. So hope that helped you out, guys. That's all for today. There's a little flick of me as a youngster with Huss as my main role model. Hope you guys think of who yours is and can do a bit of your own analysis on what they do well and how you can implement that into your own cricket. Okay. So thank you so much for joining. That's a really good finish to the session. We got plenty on to finish this week to end the wellbeing program. It's been so good having you guys on so far. Keep thinking about your weekly challenge and the new skill you're trying to pick up, and we'll keep tabs as we go along, okay? So that's all for today. I'll see you tomorrow.